Good morning. We'll call the July 22nd meeting of the Door County Board of Supervisors at 9:02. Could we have the roll call? I need the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we have a roll call, please? Okay, we have 18 present and 3 absent. That includes the vacant position and 2 excused. Okay. The presentation of the agenda. We have a motion to approve. There's a motion by Norton and a second by Shaw to approve the agenda. Any questions, additions to those, to the agenda? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that carries. There is correspondence in the packet from the bug resolution, the town of Jacksonport, town of Union, town of Claybanks. Those are all regarding the communications project. And there's also some, I believe, sent to you from Forestville, Village and Town, and the town of Nassau-Waupee that the clerk forwarded to you this morning. There's a P. Pratapis letter and a C. Greer letter. Okay. We'll go to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a public comment?
I would ask where that mic is having issues, so if you could please come up, I appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Greer. I'm the head of Open Door Pride. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
During Pride Month, we gratefully received Pride Month proclamations from the Office of Governor Evers, the City of Sturgeon Bay, the Village of Sister Bay, and the Town of Bailey's Harbor, and we really thank them for that. By contrast, at your May 2025 meeting, the Board of Supervisors would not consider a motion to even discuss a Pride Month proclamation. Words and actions do matter, and this community of constituents that you represent is watching. Preventing discussion is a form of censorship, but perhaps the greater loss here is the missed opportunity to learn why a proclamation is important for your LGBTQ plus neighbors who live in Door County, as well as for those who visit. A proclamation was not heard in May, but in June, the board did hear from Jesse Simcox, who identifies himself on social media as Jesse Wisco, deplorable homo, among other profile names. He is the head spokesperson for the Wisconsin chapter of Gays Against Groomers, GAG. He wore a t-shirt bearing the slogan, "Groom dogs, not children," which was clearly intended to promote a conspiracy theory claiming that LGBTQ plus people and their allies engage in child grooming and sexual abuse. This allegation is categorically false. Jesse spoke under the pretense of thanking you for not considering a pride proclamation. He brought others to make baseless and slanderous claims, including graphic descriptions of sexual acts, stating they were evidence against Open Door Pride, the organization that I formed in 2017. For those of you who are unaware, Gays Against Groomers, GAG, falsely and maliciously characterizes LGBTQ plus people as pedophiles with the absolutely clear intent of creating fear and hatred. GAG accounts have repeatedly been removed from multiple social media sites for violating the site's rules against hate speech. GAG has a history of harassment of institutions and individuals. Both Northern Door and Open Door Pride have experienced harassment and threats of potential violence from GAG. Let me be very clear. Open Door Pride has never and will never support or engage in pedophile behavior. We are not groomers. We are not child abusers. And regarding children, we are proud to show by example that everyone can grow up to have loving relationships, great jobs, wonderful careers, and community respect. In the 9 years that I have led Open Door Pride, we have never distributed books to schools, we have never started an after-school program, and we have never encouraged children to lie to their parents. It is important always, but especially now, to be discerning in whose words we believe. Distorting Open Door Pride's advocacy as child grooming and abuse is not only a despicable lie, it is a threat to myself, members and friends of Open Door Pride, and to the safety of our Door County community. I have multiple times stood before you to advocate for LGBTQ+ basic human rights, and I will continue to implore you to recognize our value in this community for ourselves and for those who love and support us. I have a reputation and an organization that I'm proud of, and we welcome a discussion anytime. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment?
Hi, good morning. I'm Pastor Reverend Joe Mitchell. I live at 1239 North 18th Avenue in Sturgeon Bay, Nisses District. After 40 years of pastoral ministry in mainline congregations, I've had a sense that this group has been rather caught in a controversial issue that you really didn't want to deal with. I have just a couple observations that I wanted to share with you from 40 years of dealing with those kind of controversial issues. That although I tried several times, no real problem is ever solved by ignoring it, by putting it off or denying that it exists. When people hurt, they may hurt in silence for a time, but they eventually will act out on their pain. I invite you, even if you do not make a proclamation, to seek out people who are hurting in these ways so that you can better understand and they can know that they have been heard, and thus diffuse a bomb before it blows up in the face of this community and creates even more harm. Continued misunderstanding never solves problems. If you do not take the time and the initiative to seek out the truth about real people living in your district, you will continue to perpetuate misunderstanding and continuing and more complicated conflict in this community. It may not be something that comes to the budget or programming of this county initially, but it will eventually, even as it harms citizens for a long time leading up to that. In dealing with people in controversial issues, I've noticed something in 40 years of ministry. I've had a lot of people, thinking primarily of marital couples in conflict, who were not interested in healing, but were interested in venting their pain. There's a difference in how they advocate. What I always looked for in doing marital counseling, among other things, how understanding, how compassionate could they be or not be with those persons with whom they disagreed. If they made no effort to understand or be compassionate, I understood they were just perpetuating the conflict and making it worse. I invite you to seek healing for this county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to make a comment at this time?
Good morning. My name is Mike Brudd. I live at 2182 Sequest Road in Liberty Grove. I'm here today as a leader of a group called Indivisible Door County, who, as our name Indivisible implies, we believe that we are stronger together and we seek to build bridges rather than walls. So regarding the discussion today regarding Open Door Pride, we wish to go on record in support of Open Door Pride and the Door County residents in its community. We believe in welcoming all and encourage the county board to do the same. After all, you do represent all of the citizens of Door County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public that wish to make a comment?
Good morning. Michelle Roma at 1014 Superior Street. I'm fairly new to local politics. I started showing up to various city and county meetings about 8 months ago. I started showing up just to pay attention. The more I showed up, the more I learned. I learned what types of decisions my local elected officials make, what discussions they do or don't have, and how they affect me and those around me. It's daunting to think about the federal or even the state level, but focusing on my city, my county, is significantly more approachable. I love living here. There are so many wonderful things about this county, but it could be better. The mission of the Door County government states that it will protect the people and enable its people to build productive communities, families, and lives. Its vision statement says that it envisions a Door County government that people feel has helped make the county a better place to live. It says that it strives to be the leader in developing partnerships with community organizations to deliver the programs and services people call for, and that it listens to its people. I would like to encourage the board to remember its mission and vision statement and think about the LGBTQ+ community, young and old, of Door County. What are you doing specifically to protect this community, to help it build a productive life? Do your flag and proclamation policies enable all the people of Door County to build productive communities, families, and lives, or just some? Are you listening to your people when they ask you for your help? In order to hold our local elected officials accountable, I will continue to show up, to pay attention, to speak up, and to educate and inform others about the actions and inactions of our local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? You want to come up? Either to the back podium if your voice can carry, or up to the front so you can use the microphone.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Paul DeWitt. I'm the town chairman of town of Gardner. Fisher, you're still here. Campbell. I'd just like to speak real briefly about these numbers that are being thrown around for EMS, police, and fire on these pagers and radios that you're thinking about going to. The number that we got for Brussels Union Gardner was like 44,000 per year. Well, Bug's budget is only about 200,000. So we're looking at a 25% increase in our budget just for these radios every year. And where are we gonna get that money with the levy limits and everything? So I would hope that as discussion moves forward on this topic, that the county looks at funding it and borrowing if they have to. But, you know, we don't have the capability of coming up with that kind of money, so. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, anyone else in the public that wishes to comment? Seeing no indication, we'll go to those online.
Sir, if those individuals online that would like to speak, if you could please raise your hand, I can give you the floor. And just a reminder, we have a 3-minute limit. Again, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand on the Zoom. And for a final time, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand.
Okay, seeing no further requests, we'll move to the supervisor's response. Is there any supervisor response to any comment? Seeing none, we'll go, oops, I'm sorry. Okay, Supervisor Shaw. Okay, I'm out of order, I guess.
That's all right, go ahead.
Clerks first.
Okay,
Go ahead, Ray.
No, well, you're on. Claire.
yeah, Claire,
Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
okay.
I want to read a letter I received this morning from one of my constituents that echoes quite a few
conversations I had with people in my district as well. This
Clerk,
is
could you
from,
adjust your mic so we can hear you? A little bit, thank you, sorry.
you can also speak up, sorry about that. I wanted to read a letter from one of my constituents that echoes some conversations that I'd had with several constituents as well over the last few months. It reads, I'm writing to show my support of Kathy Greer and Open Door Pride's letter in the current county board packet. While I do not have much to add to the letter, I find it important to voice concern over GAG, the group, and hope that the county board show Kathy and the LGBTQ plus community that their safety and belonging are of importance. And I would just like to add to that I think as a board, if we allow people to give voice to misinformation and lies, which was presented very emotionally to all of us during the meeting when the handbook was held up, we run the risk of causing greater division instead of an effort to understand each other. I would just like this conversation to continue and for us to find some sort of common ground and resolution and understanding with this very important community with us here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Supervisor Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like to speak regarding that letter as well. I want to encourage members of our board to reach out to members in this community that are here. There are a lot of people that spoke. There's a lot of people who don't understand a lot of these issues that are happening, and that's been clear through the conversations that we're having. We've tried to push this issue aside. We've tried to sweep this issue under the rug. We've tried to not talk about this issue. That's where violence comes. Violence, as we've talked about, violence comes in lots of forms, and that can be words, that can be actions, that can be people not feeling comfortable on the street. It is our responsibility to take care of all the members of this community. And I encourage and invite members of this board, members of this body, to go to some of these meetings that they have. Open Door Pride has lots of meetings. Meet with these people. Talk to me. I've got lots of information. I'm happy to have these conversations, but we can't pretend that this isn't something that's happening in our community any longer. We have to start to talk about it and address it and have an open dialogue about what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other supervisors? Okay, we'll move to the approval of the minutes from the June 24th meeting. Okay, the motion by Thais and a second by Shaw to approve the minutes of that June 24th meeting. Any additions, corrections to those? Seeing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay. The administrator's broadband update.
Sure. Oops. If it's okay with you, Jessica, I know was coming from another appointment, so if you don't mind, I'm going to defer that one and see if she makes it during our meeting, so that way she can provide the update. I will move on though and just talk about the quarterly transportation newsletter is in the packet, as long as in addition to all the monthly reports on our capital projects. No significant updates, but I did make updates obviously to the projects and their status for your information.
Okay, any questions on any of those projects? Okay, we can go back to the broadband later then if Jessica shows. Okay, pending business updates. We have nothing there. Resolutions. Resolution 2025-59. Supervisor Thais.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move Resolution 2025-59, which came through the Land Conservation Committee for approval of a Phragmites Adaptive Management Framework program. Basically, it's to continue to try and control Phragmites in this county and document what they've done and how the control is working. There's no match money by the county, so it's a straight up grant for 94.24, and the money comes from the Great Lakes Commission. We've got a representative from the Soil and Water here if anyone wants to know more in detail.
Okay, is there any questions for anyone on regarding this resolution? Who's the representative here from your, who's the rep from your department? That's here. There. Do you have anything you'd like to? Okay, I think there's been some discussion on the controls we have in Door County versus other counties, the Highway Department or the Department of Transportation. Are our efforts worthwhile when other counties aren't participating in the same way? Is a question often asked. I'm not suggesting they're not worthwhile, but that's a topic of discussion.
I understand, yeah. Morning, everyone. My name is Jason. I am one of the conservationists here, and I manage our invasive species program. So, yes, I do think it's worthwhile to continue controlling Phragmites. I know as you cross the county line, it's a huge difference, but people talk about us. People go around the state, they talk about the work that we have been doing. We've been doing it for many, many, many years, and we are known throughout the state for the work that we do. People look to us not only for the work that we're doing, but the way that we fund the work that we're doing, with it being primarily through grants. I mean, county levy doesn't go towards the invasive species control work that we do, so people look to that and are sometimes amazed by the work that we do and how we piecemeal things together. So this PAMP grant is helping desist control the Phragmites, but it's also helping Phragmites control throughout the Great Lakes. So this management program is put on through the Great Lakes Commission, and it's something that anyone can participate in. It's not just limited to people like me. So anyone who has Phragmites who might be managing it can participate. So what they do is they monitor the Phragmites patch, taking some measurements, then they manage the program, and then they report that information back to this model. So it's a learning model, it's adaptive, so it will spit out information to help guide future management throughout the Great Lakes. So this was special funding that the Great Lakes Commission received through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative to bolster their method. So they have 12 management programs that people can select from, and of those 12, there's about 3 or 4 that they have a lot of information on, and the rest they had very few. So they got this money to bolster everything else. So we are going to do, if we take this money, we're going to do selective management on 7 populations, looking at these other techniques just to see how effective they are. Are they effective? Maybe some things aren't effective, but we don't know that until we try it. So it's just really helping the greater good, not only for Door County, but all of Great Lakes in general.
Okay, thank you for the report. I think it's good information for us to have on. Dave, you have a question?
More of a comment. Having worked in Oconto and Brown County, I've been on job sites 2 days apart and watched the Phragmites move over the top of the freshly graded backyard 30, 20 feet routinely. And if we wouldn't have had a handle of it like we've had, that would be ugly. I mean, I've just, there's these drainage ditches that have it in there, and give them new ground, they move fast.
Yep, certainly.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Otherwise, thank you for the additional information.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion by Thayson and a second by Norton to approve this resolution. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, resolution 2025-60. Joel?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-60, which is approval of the Door County Deflection Grant to the Door County Sheriff's Office for the amount of $278,502. It's self-explanatory in there what it is. We received these in the past, but if there's any questions, Chief Deputy is in the back to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Chief Deputy, you want to add anything to this, or? Okay, seeing no questions, We have the motion by Supervisor Gunlickson, a second by Supervisor Jeancourt to approve Resolution 2025-60. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries. Next resolution, 2025-61, dealing with the Highway Department. Jeff, would you do that one, please?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-61, the Highway Department County D and County H culvert replacement, transfer of funds in the amount not to exceed $93,000. If you look at some of the pictures below, you'll see the urgency of these two replacements, and if, with your permission, if Thad would like to explain how the state goes about doing this, it might be helpful. If he's here.
Okay, you can? Okay.
Sure, so I can cover this one. So just really quick, as part of the biennium budget, there was a two-stage process that was done by the state. The first one was to complete I think a culvert inventory of culverts over a certain size. I believe it was 6 feet in length or 8 feet in length. And then the other part was then to go back the next year and then do actually a visual inspection of all those. So the DOT actually hired a company to go through and do the visual inspection. Through the visual inspection, they found these two culverts that are in poor condition, and then we got a report back saying that we need to take action this year yet, or they would have to take action on either closing the road or limiting the weight limit. So it went through both highway and facilities in terms of discussion of the best approach, and then also to finance to try to get these done this year, and that's why it's before you today.
Okay, any further question? Okay, on a motion by Supervisor Miller and a second by Supervisor Enigal to approve the grant for those emergency repairs.
Two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote is required. Okay, thank you. So you go to the voter board. Okay, that passes on a vote of 18 yes and 0 no's. Okay, resolution 2025-62. Todd, please.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to present resolution 2025-62 for approval, and it's basically delegating the authority to enter into a settlement agreement. I know we've talked about many of these over the past year and a half. I guess I'll allow corporate counsel here to go ahead and give us further detail as to what's different about this one.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, Resolution 2025-62 is delegating authority, taking it from the county board and giving that authority to accept settlement agreements, enter into settlement agreements with opiate defendants, giving that authority to the county administrator and or the county board chair. The reason this resolution is coming before the body is our National Opiate Council, our State Opiate Council is expecting that we're going to have a number of smaller settlement agreements that we have to accept coming up. And instead of going before the county board and doing a separate resolution for each small, relatively small settlement, the consensus at the state level was we should do one resolution for each county designating authority to someone who can readily sign off, accept these settlement agreements, and get that back to our council because sometimes they do have rather strict time limits to accept. When we're talking about opiate litigation settlements, it really isn't something that the county has great discretion in to contribute to shape the settlement agreements. As the board likely knows, this is a nationwide action. There are counties across the entire country, municipalities, states are involved, that it really is a group effort and everyone has to keep pushing in the same direction. We do have counsel at multiple levels that recommend acceptance or denial of settlement agreements to the county. So procedurally how this would work is if there is a settlement agreement, counsel representing the county would reach out to me. They would say, we have a settlement, we're recommending you approve it. I would review it. If I find it acceptable, then it would either go to the county administrator or the county board chair for their signature. We would send that back to council and they would accept it. It just removes the process of having a resolution for each acceptance.
Okay, any questions from any supervisor? Okay. We have the motion by Supervisor Thais and a second by Supervisor Miller to approve Resolution 2025-62. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Okay, Todd, would you handle the next resolution, please?
Yes, I will.
2025-63.
Resolution 2025-63, it's approval of a lease agreement for our postage machines. Pitney Bowes are currently under lease, and Jason has negotiated and gotten a document in front of us to enter into a 5-year lease agreement. We heard the justification at the admin committee meeting, which we passed, and it is here now at the county board to further be passed.
Yeah, it was the county clerk that negotiated.
Oh, excuse me, was it you?
Yeah, let's not give Jason.
Well, that was the only thing I was gonna change.
Jason had zero
Do we
to
think
do
we
with
wanna,
this.
do we think we
I-
wanna change that bottom
I'm sure that
sentence?
happened there.
Thank you, Joe, for negotiating that. I thought you couldn't talk.
No. Only to correct you.
Sorry about that, Eric.
Oh, that's okay. Okay. You don't need to explain it, do you?
I don't think
You
so.
did a good job, okay. We'll give you permission to speak if you wish, I mean, you know. But anyway, on a motion by Supervisor Thais and a second by Supervisor Rubelard to approve the resolution, 2025-63. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Okay, that carries as well. Okay. The next resolution, the increase of facility and park fees. Roy, would you?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution number 2025-64 for the increase of facility and park fees starting on January 1st, 2026.
Okay. Said ignore?
No, you have
Accept,
to.
okay.
Do you want to amend?
Okay, Bud, would you wanna, you're interested in making an amendment?
Yes, I'd like to move to amend the Door County Facilities and Parks fee schedule. On the Parks Reservation fees, the second line, events requiring a refundable security cleanup deposit. I'd like to amend to increase that from $100 to $300, and I'll explain it if I get a second on the amendment.
Okay, second by Supervisor Hennigal. Would you go ahead and explain your request?
We used to have $100 deposit on, refundable on cleanup, and when the rental was over, nobody really seemed to be too concerned about that. The place would get left in a less than desirable condition. So the fee schedule, the $100 would be forfeited or at least a portion of it. We raised it to $300, and now after the rental, people are more concerned about it. They're calling up when they're gonna get their $300 back. $100 nowadays is not much of a deposit. If I were renting a place, for instance, and I paid $100 and didn't feel like cleaning it up, I would just say, well, go ahead, I don't care about the $100. But with the $300, it's more of a bite, so that's why I would amend to increase it to 300.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, concerns about the amendment? Okay, we'll vote on the amendment first then. Amendment is to increase the deposit to $300 for the park rental properties. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that was on a motion by Combs and a second by Enigal, and that passes by voice vote. Then back to the resolution with that amendment included. Any questions, concerns on the fees in that area? Otherwise, we have the motion by Supervisor Roy Engelbert, a second by Supervisor Fisher. All those in favor, okay, I'm sorry. Todd, you have a question?
Yeah. At committee level, we had some discussion on this, and I voted no at committee level, and I'm gonna vote no here now also, but just to explain my position, what we're talking about, at least I believe what I heard we were talking about in terms of the total financial impact of this is somewhere around $13,000 to the county, if I understood right. And there's a lot of non-usage. I mean, there's, as far as I understood, again, in the committee level, I mean, there's a lot of vacancy in the usage of these facilities, and I think where we could potentially increase is by better advertising or in the fact of utilization. I don't think we're going to move the needle a whole lot by increasing these fees. And in particular, I guess I'm kind of against the boating fees being raised and things of that nature. So again, I don't think it moves the needle a heck of a lot. A lot of this is resident dollars that probably paid to have these facilities put in place, albeit a lot of them came through grants also. So I just don't feel good about this document as a whole. There are some that I'm okay with, and maybe I should have tried to amend it at the committee level, but I didn't. So I'll be voting no because I oppose these rate increases.
Okay. Roy, anyone else from the committee have any comment or?
The only comment from the committee is that the department head has investigated all the fees, and we're right in line with other counties with their fees right now. So, and they fill up, all the buildings get filled up for the off-season storage. So they believe that this is correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no indication, then on the motion by Roy Engelbert, second by Supervisor Fisher, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Okay, there was a second aye. Rockwell. Okay, so noted. Okay, that passes then on a motion, on a vote of 16-2. Okay, the next resolution is the 2025-65. Supervisor Gullickson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-65, excuse me, which is county municipal share of public safety radio system costs. After much discussion in multiple committees, it was brought here by recommendation from those committees to approve, and I think the key takeaway out of this at this point is the lines items in 23 where it's definitively explains what the county's role in this is going to be going forward as far as cost analysis goes. I'm sure the administrator can answer any more questions, directors from the various departments, but this is a great time for any committee or county board members to ask questions and follow up on this, because this is a big, heavy topic of discussion and is a big ticket item for the county moving forward. So conversation is encouraged on this item.
The letters from the municipalities and fire departments were so noted earlier and also in public comment.
Correct.
So, okay. Supervisor Tace.
Yeah, I agree, and I'll be voting for this also. So I just want to be clear with everyone who maybe wasn't in those committees or those in the audience or those listening in. This addresses those resolutions that came from the towns wholehandedly in terms of removing that burden. At least that's the intent, is to relieve the burden that maybe was going to be slid toward the towns, so that the towns concerned, the resolutions they took the time to put forward to, I believe, have been addressed in here. And this is going to be a bit of a more burden on the county to finance this, and we'll have to budget this moving forward in the next 5-10 years or whatever else it was. But what I took as important, and hopefully my numbers still are right, is that whether we pushed all of it to the county, which wasn't acceptable, or we had some increment thereof that the towns were going to shoot, not all of it to the towns, or not all of it to the towns, but if we push some increments somewhat there to them, this wasn't moving the needle a lot from a county perspective. And if my numbers were right, my rough estimation, somewhere's in that 30, 40, maybe $50,000 a year additional the county would have to budget in order to go ahead and maintain this, and hopefully those numbers are accurate. But in my mind, that I thought was a fairly significant move to support this from my perspective. So I think this is fair for the towns. It'll be a bit more of a burden for the county, but there's been a lot of discussion about how difficult the towns are, the difficult position the towns are in terms of revenue.
Okay. Supervisor Robillard.
Don't worry, I am going to vote yes on this one because you did. I know I voted no at the joint meeting, more out of principle than anything else, because I'm the one that fought I think Ken the hardest on this. I felt that the county should pay for this, but being that we went down to we had option 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thank God that we went down to option 4. It's at least reasonable. It's reasonable for all the towns, and I will definitely vote for this, which will probably, I don't know if Paul is still here or not, not be good for that. But yes, I thank Chairman Engelbert for making that motion at the joint meeting, so that we have at least a reasonable amount on these things.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments to the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Supervisor Zettel.
Gauger.
Ms. Gauger first, I'm sorry.
Yes, being on town board, I ran this past my town of Egg Harbor board last night, and I think towns understand that they have to share in some costs, but how do you make it as fair and balanced? And option 4, I'm glad, is something I think that will address the concerns of towns. And I got their support. I guess they had one question, though. They wanted to know what happens to add or replace a radio if the county's purchasing those. Who's the burden for further down the line?
Sure, so the way this is being proposed is that for the rollout of the system, the county will buy the initial equipment, and then after that, it's 100% the town responsibility for any future additional radios, or if they would break radio, any of that type of stuff there, they would be responsible for that. So in essence, we're buying it once as a group, but then we're actually turning over that asset and they own it, and then any future assets they're responsible for.
Thank you.
Okay. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wasn't privy to hear all the different options, so I was very confused. You have page 73, and I just want to be clear. We're not voting on anything on page 73. We're just talking about page 74, where you're talking about the maintenance. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so. That was what was included in the packet.
Right, so we can cross out page 73 and just look at page 74 for maintenance costs for each fire department.
I believe so.
Sean can answer.
Yeah.
Is this a reference in terms of the radio?
Right, that first addendum you see on page 73 is referenced in the resolution as a radio count. It kind of sets in stone at this point how many radios are the county going to be purchasing for each respective municipality. That's the only purpose of that addendum being in there, is to specify that's what we all agreed on, were the radios each municipal and public safety entity needed. That's what we're going with.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think those numbers reflect what's believed is used in those departments at this time. And that was close to the other question about who owns them and the replacement. Now, if there's more additional firemen, that would be the responsibility then of the departments. When another project comes along in a number of years, if that occurs, then there'll be a point of discussion again. But these are referring to these particular radios and pagers. Okay, Mr. Zettel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple questions, and just in full disclosure, I voted for the purchase of the radios, but I was not in favor of the maintenance option. Option 4, I believe option 3 would have been the more fair and appropriate cost relative to handling both the direct cost of the maintenance, which is included, plus the indirect costs relative to the amount of, if you will, back office and overhead that it takes. And that's going to be an annual cost that we're going to have for a very long time. So I think in any business, you have to look at indirect costs as well as the direct costs. And I think, relative to putting that burden on the county solely, I think is unfair. Also, I would like to look at line 32 of the proposal. I think it's unclear, or it's assumed, but I would like to make it clear that any purchase replacement of radios, by any other public safety organization has to be subject to the County of Door device purchase specifications. Again, because the county is going to be handling the maintenance and back office support of these devices, we have to make sure they only purchase, what we agree to purchase, that our vendor supports. and has to match our purchase specification. To me, I think that's a loophole. You know, I don't want anyone buying devices because they got a cheap one on Craigslist, and all of a sudden, how do we support it? So I think we got to make that clear relative to these are the devices only, if you will, sanctioned by the county to operate within its public emergency service infrastructure. Again, relative to the 34 through 40, relative to the concern about managing runaway indirect costs, I would propose that we only handle the maintenance only portion for this initial purchase of devices. And if additional devices are purchased after this initial allotment, that they also have to handle the indirect costs as proposed in option 3. I think that will help provide some more transparency and understanding of what it takes to manage this. And I think it also addresses a question that Supervisor Combs provided relative to other entities that may want to jump on this system, whether it's school districts, municipalities with public departments. I don't want anyone else to assume that they're going to basically only have to pay for the maintenance costs and not have to share a burden on the indirect costs of managing this large quantity of radios. So that's relative to this resolution. Some clarity on devices and how they're purchased consistent with policy, and then relative to Supervisor Thay's comments about the 50,000. That's assuming that we can get by with every other year maintenance. And I think there's been so much emphasis on the every other year that because of the criticality of devices, we may have to go to a every year annual support. And so that cost actually may be double than what people might be perceiving here. So I just want to make sure people understand that that's going to be subject to what the supplier says is necessary in order to provide proper operation of the devices. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, do you have any information that would be helpful here in response kind of to Mr. Zettel? Either you or Director Leclerc are both members of the CATS committee?
As far as
Well, like the technical aspects of the radios going forward and.
yeah,
what
so
kind of these-
I would agree. I think there probably should be something set. All of the major radio providers are going to be compatible. So I don't think if we picked Motorola as our vendor, we don't necessarily have to go with Motorola radios. Kenwood, your top name brand radios are going to be compatible, but I wouldn't disagree that you also don't want them buying, a $99 radio off of Amazon, right? Because that's
But
not
it's pretty much, I believe, from the meetings I attended, a consensus of CATS that part of this process is to have all agencies on the same radio system.
uniformity. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
To be required, so I don't think you'd be buying anything less to turn over to a municipality. It would be all standardized.
Just one thing to add too, I mean, right now what we're trying to do is just get this resolution, in essence, this gives us the ability to communicate back our intention in terms of how we're funding the initial purchase, but then also what the ongoing maintenance would be, right? I would foresee, as part of the follow-up process, is that we would actually have, whether we call it an not so much maybe intergovernmental, but there would be some agreement that we should have on file that says, if you want to be part of this system, these are the minimum specifications to be part of this system. And I think that's still to come yet. So again, I think we'll flush that out. And we didn't want to get into that level of detail yet because we're not sure about the vendor and how that all works.
Mhm.
We're still looking at different options, but there is more detail that definitely needs to follow up after this. This is just kind of setting the stage for what that initial, I guess, acquisition price would be. But I do think we'll set standards in terms of, devices that could be future part of the system, their required maintenance and so forth as part of an agreement. So, because we'll make sure that they work within the system itself. So
It was important to have something in place so that the municipalities, the fire departments know what can expect, what they need to be levying for. And this is their budget season as well as the county.
No, but I fully understand that. I also want to make sure that at the same time that we're not the county is not handcuffed relative to the indirect cost it has to manage of all that inventory, transition of devices, that's all gonna be a burden, on us. And that's part of that indirect cost. And that's why am I concerned about option 4 versus option 3. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. As some of the resolutions pointed out, the resolutions coming forward for the community, those are costs that I think the county has traditionally handled, because the county is the largest provider or the largest user for the sheriff's department and EMS, as opposed to the local areas. Okay, any other comment? Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I totally agree with Ken's comments. I think that's going to be a very important document going forward, is the intercompany, interdepartment agreement, whatever you want to call it. But I wanted to mention I did attend the Town of Nassawapi board meeting on, I think it was Thursday, and for the most part, the board was pleased with the results that we're bringing forward today. So they felt comfortable with it. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Thais.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think, and I know we're not going to go into this level of detail, it's just to kind of let people understand what their funding is, but Supervisor Zettle's comments are very real and live in terms of what we do at the next steps. And, as you think about it, who may also come on the system, like they say, for instance, Sister Bay, what is the county going to do in terms of their maintenance costs moving forward? Do we have a responsibility there or not? So albeit, we don't maybe want to taint this resolution because it gives us the direction, that's going to be pretty important, because those indirect costs could balloon if, numerous municipalities or other folks that aren't on it right now choose to be on it, and that fee on a per radio basis, inches up. How confident are you that this is a 1-year cycle versus a 2? I mean, the hypothetical question, I understand that, but that's critical.
You mean as far as the tunings and things
Yeah.
like that? We discussed that with Chris from OCG, and he feels confident that the 2 years would be sufficient in most cases. The radios are going to be backwards compatible, so we can do some upgrades to the main infrastructure, and the radios will still be okay, but you don't want them to get too far out of balance. And plus, if there's any feature updates, they need to be upgraded in order to get all of those. So from his perspective, the 2 years is kind of that top of where we would want to be as far as those tunings go. But even if we upgrade the system, those radios will still work. You just don't want them to get too far out. And the tuning, I think, is the most important part, because Aaron can attest to that. That's a very difficult task to do, and we don't do that a lot with our current system. But keeping them in line, it's not only about the programming on the backside, but it's also the tuning of the devices to make sure they're, getting all the radio signals that they need to. So.
Yep. And then just one last comment. In our committee meeting, I heard something I had never heard before, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but maybe to the county's credit, the word was, this is a Cadillac system. We bought a Cadillac system. I hadn't heard that before, so I don't know what other options there were, and we're not going backwards, obviously, but I guess the option there to have a Cadillac was what was brought forward. Cadillac is costing us a hell of a lot of money. I hope we didn't trip over something that was a Chevrolet that was going to act just fine, So just an observation and a comment. And maybe the rest of you heard that before, but maybe it wasn't the CATS committee, but that's the first I had heard that description.
Ashley, you have a response? Is it a Cadillac system?
I mean,
Okay.
the 7,800 megahertz system is, it's not new, right? Brown County's been on it for years. So while there were other options that were presented, the CATS committee felt like this was the best system to move the county forward, right? So, there are some in-between options, but who knows what the FCC might do as far as regulations go. So you might spend, a little less to get to that system, but then if in 10 years the FCC enhances those regulations, the 7,800 megahertz is that next step that even OCG I don't think feels like is gonna be outdated anytime soon. That's where everybody's headed.
Okay.
Well, we are Door County, so we might as well.
Maybe the use, maybe the use of Cadillac refers, comparing this to what we had in the past versus what the options of different brands are, or so. Okay. Supervisor Zettel.
Actually, I don't
Okay.
remember. I forgot, I turned them off.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood. I thought you declined to speak. You had a question, Mr. Annabelle.
Comment, now that we're moving further down the line here. I ask that we create a working group of actual stakeholders that are gonna be using the system outside of the tower system, I'm talking the base stations, the radios, the mobile devices, the pagers. I've been hearing quite a bit of comment. They'd like to know what kind of system we're looking at buying. It is implied through this system that, this documentation, that we've picked a system. I don't believe we have, or a brand. I believe that we're doing through budget, but I think it'd be valuable. We're gonna have several hundred individuals using this equipment. It would be valuable to have individuals representing the fire department, the EMRs, the ambulatory services, the sheriff's department, the police department. And in our case, because we're going to be bringing this group on as well, the county highway department, people that can get an understanding, work with, rather than just buying equipment and finding there's some function that everybody uses in this county that's being lost because we're not really doing that. CATS is not the committee to do that. I would like to see we do something similar to what Brown County did, which was a working group, made up of the various stakeholders that were going to be involved. I think it would be a mistake to go down the road of picking equipment without having their input and understanding and support of the gear that actually gets chosen. As far as the other comments made by Supervisor Zettel, I echo most of them. I've said this at the joint meeting. I've said this before. We need to have a document of memorandum of understanding, whatever it is, for any group that decides to get onto our system. And I do believe they should be buying the same gear that we are going to go to, because ultimately the reprogramming and all the other functions is still going to be easier than trying to understand an icon as opposed to a Motorola. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Zettel. Need that, Klein? Okay. Mr. Cobbs, I'm sorry.
To reiterate from the other day, the non-public safety radios, and whoever gets those, they're on their own. Is that true?
That would have, yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the intent of it.
Okay, and then when will is this gonna go out for bid to vendors on this at some point?
Yeah, it will. I think we need to solidify the tower locations a little bit tighter before we send it out for bid, because we need to know the type, how many sites we're gonna have in order to bid that out to them.
Thank you.
Mhm. I think the intent of this resolution, at least with the motion I made at that joint meeting, was to work with the public service areas and then the entities like the schools and highway, which would be different radios perhaps. That's another situation, the way it would be dealt with. Aaron, could you make any comment as to the what's been happening historically with CATS committee? Because CATS is made up, for those of us that might not be familiar, there's representatives from most of those agencies as well as individuals with experience in communications. And any recommendation from CATS still goes to public safety for approval there.
Yes, sir. So it's made up of various public safety agencies. Fire chiefs have two different representatives, one president of the Chiefs Association, city fire chief, sheriff's department, city police. Highway is part of it, but they don't really.
I don't think they have an official spot, but I do
Right.
always include them on the meeting invites.
Emergency management, technology services. So there are various representatives. To Supervisor Engelgold's comments, we have talked about a working group as we get further in to make sure we get what the users of it prefer support.
Mhm. But all those agencies are well represented at the CATS committee level?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Or any questions for Aaron or Ashley? No. Okay, any further discussion on this resolution? Otherwise, we have the initial motion by Gullickson and a second by Gauger to approve Resolution 2025-65. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that carries then. Thank you. We'll go back to the report on the bead grant funding with Jessica. That was under the administrator's agenda portion.
One second.
Sure. Morning. There were some questions that came in on the impacts of the BEAD funding, so we wanted to do kind of just an update here for you. So I'm just going to set the table before we get into this. Just a reminder that BEAD funding, Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Funding, was originally to build out fiber to the premise infrastructure throughout the rural areas in the unserved and underserved areas nationwide. Wisconsin qualified for $1.5 billion in funding, and we as a county helped them qualify for that with all of the survey work that we did from 2022 into 2024. So the information we're going to go over, which is referred to the BEAD Bob, which is the benefit of the bargain, is the new guidance that was pushed down after everything was kind of paused, and NTIA, which is the National Telecommunications and Information Association, reviewed a lot of what was written into that policy and legislation for BEAD and made some changes. And sadly for Wisconsin, we were just finishing our second round of BEAD funding that was about to end and wrap up. And we as a county, almost every single project unit that we had was bid on for fiber to the premise and had been awarded. So all of that had to be rescinded. And now we are in the middle of the one auction round, which is the BEAD Bob. So the new guidance that is released that you see up here on the screen, this is a screenshot from the Public Service Commission Wisconsin Broadband Office that just kind of highlights this. I'm not going to go through all of these. I put those two green arrows there on the left-hand side just for you to see so that you can see the impact to us locally, really. The biggest issues are that priority technology is no longer fiber to the premise. There is no longer a priority technology. It is technology neutral, which means anything from LEO satellite to fiber to the premise and anything in between. Providers can bid with whatever technology they want to bid on. And then the other piece is that awarding and scoring primarily based on the lowest cost per location versus there was a different scoring priority and local engagement and all the resolutions that we had done to pass and help support those providers does not come into the scoring process any longer. So those were the biggest changes that we would see here in impact locally, other than we don't know at this point what the providers are going to bid on. When this guidance came down and they made all these changes, every single broadband office across the nation had to take this new guidance and has to run their rounds and answer back within 90 days. So they had 3 years of planning and all the time to run their auction rounds, and now they have 90 days to change that, open those bids up again, and make decisions to send their final proposal back to NTIA for review and approval. And NTIA has said that they will stick to a 90-day review on their side and send it back. Okay. So these are our project units here in Door County that you'll see. Anything that's white is not eligible, and anything where you're seeing different colors is the project units. So project units can be any size, any shape. They do not stick to municipal boundaries. They only stick to county boundaries here. And the different colors don't mean anything specifically. It's just so that the providers that are reviewing these project units can determine what
they want to bid on and look at. And underneath those project units, if we zoomed in on the actual map, you will see all the individual locations that are eligible for funding in that project unit. Not every location is eligible for funding. So this is based on speeds that that providers are reporting and available to customers, and the minimum speed requirements for BEAD are 100 by 20. So the eligibility is going to be based on those locations not having access to that 100 by 20 speed here. And I just kind of did a little summary here that covers a little of the information on the first page also. The Bob Round opened on July 17th, and it will be closing on July 28th. In August, the Wisconsin Broadband Office Commission will review all those applications and score them as needed. They will select the subgrantees, which are internet service providers, to negotiate and fill gaps. So if there were project units that were not bid on, or maybe they said, we can serve half of these locations, but we can't serve the other half of the locations. This is getting very different than what we had seen in those first rounds. So the broadband office will take care of all of that in the negotiations. They will have a final proposal that they have to have back to NTIA by September 4th for review. What we will see on our end is going to be that the project unit was awarded or not awarded. We will not know any technology information or internet service provider information until NTIA either approves Wisconsin's plan or says, you're close, go back to the drawing board and fix this or fix that. So we really won't know. So this is a map that I covered at our most recent broadband meeting. So this is current construction that's going on for fiber to the premise work throughout the county. So all of the areas that are colored in either have grants pending or have work going on under public-private partnerships and construction going on. And those red areas are kind of in that beginning phases, design and planning. There's not construction started yet. Orange has make-ready and preparation going on. Yellow has construction and build work going on. And green has splicing and connections and activations going on in those municipalities. As you can see, this is a lot of construction work that's going on here in the county, and you guys come from all over the county, so you're probably passing trucks. I did this morning in Valmy on my way through, where there's a boring company that's pushing conduit through in Valmy right now, and that is for AT&T work with the town of Sevastopol. So you'll start seeing trucks all over, subcontractor trucks kind of all over, and I have been seeing them since the weather broke, probably in about April, that we're seeing. The white areas are what are eligible for BEAD funding. Liberty Grove does qualify in that also. So all the areas that are in white have very eligible project locations that we're waiting to see back and what that funding is going to be. And purple is served. City of Sturgeon Bay, Sister Bay would also qualify as served, but they have a public-private partnership in place. And then areas that you see with the lines across them, the hash lines, that is under the Frontier footprint. And I have had many, many, many discussions with them in the past 3 weeks. They are doing upgrades and work on their own dime because they were purchased out by Verizon, and that transition will happen towards the end of the year. So they're doing a lot of network upgrades in certain areas that they have decided will get a return on investment, and that work is going very fast. There's a lot of permit approvals that I have gotten from WISDOT and even the county, and having conversations with local municipalities that they're issuing permits also. They have a very aggressive plan to try to provide about 4,700 locations with fiber to the premise by the end of December is kind of what the goal is here. So keep in mind, when looking at this map, when I started in 2022, we only had Washington Island Electric Co-op that was awarded a grant for funding for 1,100 locations, which was 4% of our fire numbers here in the county. Because everything we look at locally is based on fire numbers, not the way that the feds look at this. So currently, we have 11,621 locations that have been funded for fiber to the premise throughout the county. 7,184 of those locations are under grants, and 4,437 of those locations are under public-private partnerships with the municipality and an internet service provider. So about 46% of our E911 locations have something in place to have fiber to the premise to it by whatever construction dates that they have set or public-private partnerships that they have in place there. And then, so here's the summary that I have for you also on this, and gives you kind of an idea. We have about 9,048 locations that need to be served still throughout the county, and 6,056 are eligible for BEAD funding. So let's say in a perfect world, every single location was funded something under that. We would have roughly about 3,000 locations throughout the county that would be left to receive, hopefully, fiber to the premise access, since that's our goal here, to have wireline service and stable service available in the rural areas, the same as you would in any city or metropolitan area. And that's it. Any questions at all? Jeff?
A couple questions. You mentioned the state funding.
Mm-hmm.
Did that stayed the same even with the moving it down to the state level? So the state still has the same amount of money to use as they did prior?
Yes. There is nothing that I have seen that NTIA did in that guidance and review to change the amount of funding that went to the states. I'm not Sean, but I'm assuming that it's illegal for them to change that at this point because it was already awarded and determined, and the states have gone through the planning and done the work.
The second question is, how will these townships and municipalities, how will they know who was awarded? Is that can come through you? Does that?
It will be published once NTIA approves the state plan. So once that plan goes to NTIA on September 4th, they have a 90-day review period that they have said they will stick to. So before the end of the year, we should have an answer back. If they approve the plan, then the broadband office will publish that information and let us know these project units were awarded to this, or even possibly individual locations, since they can split up the project units.
So you'll be keeping the municipalities, the townships informed?
Absolutely. Okay. I will be anxiously awaiting that information to find out what was awarded and what was the technology.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the wording high-speed internet to the premise still on board yet, or are they distributing that?
It is technology neutral at this point. So it is, as long as they can deliver the speeds of 100 by 20 with the proposed technology, but they do have to be able to prove that they can do that. And there is reporting measures that those ISPs have to be able to do for, I think it's 5 years. And then they additionally have to be able to scale up that network as demand is requested.
But is it to the premise? Did they keep that wording in?
Well, it's not wireline to the premise any longer. So it could be fixed wireless line of sight, which is not considered necessarily, I wouldn't call that wireline because it's not directly wired. So it's not the same. They have not kept to the premise language in there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Zettel, good question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. A great summary, Jess, thank you. Just a couple things. One is I want to thank the county board members here that were in the 2020 term that allocated the funds to fund a full-time broadband coordinator, because we couldn't have gone from roughly 4% locations to 46% locations in 3 years without the kind of focus that it afforded us as a county to work with our municipality partners. So for those county board members that were around at that time and made that decision, thank you, because I think the county is benefiting and the residents are benefiting big time. One of the other things I also want to do is I want to acknowledge on behalf of the town of Sevastopol and the town of Sturgeon Bay, Jessica's support. While we do get updates from our vendors, Jess also has a visibility to things like Wisconsin Department of Transportation permits and other permitting activity that helps inform the towns as far as what's going on so they can communicate to the residents. And it's also another proof point and comfort level for them that there's actually work going on. It's one thing for the town board members to say, yes, it's coming. But when you see permits pulled and then you subsequently see trucks on the road working, that's helpful. So that kind of oversight also provides the town the ability to follow up as necessary to make sure that the work gets done. So thank you, Jess, and for the rest of the county support, GIS, et cetera, that has helped through this project.
Thank you.
Supervisor Anigal.
So going to technology neutral, then technically Starlink would be.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as which there is a published list of the entities that have been approved to bid on that. So they had to go through the same application process that any ISP did and go through that letter of intent and get approved as a vendor. And from my understanding, they are.
Okay, and just to tie something back to Supervisor Engelbert's question, I have one of the betas test Starlinks, and routinely I get over 300 by 30. And the two premise part would be the antenna, in my mind, sitting on my roof. So that'd be the equivalent reference.
As close as you can for wireline.
Exactly. It's
comparatively.
not to the edge of the premise, it is literally to the building. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you for the report.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to suggest a 10-minute break, and then we'll go into the closed session at 10:30. We're running pretty good on time. I don't think the closed session will take a real long time, but sometimes we're fooled. County real estate parcel ID number 118355000G. We need a motion and a roll call vote. A motion by Thais, second by Rubelard, and then we need a roll call vote to go into closed session. We can vote on our board. Okay, that is approved by a vote of 18-0. Yes, we have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Norton and a second by Anigal. All in favor of adjourning signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We